Welcome to Man, Woman, God. My name's Greg and I'm your host for today. I'm with James Layton, our resident pastor. Welcome, James.
Thanks, Greg.
We're going to be talking about men. And in honour of today, James, let me say that I made sure I didn't shave this morning.
And I made sure that I did.
Well done. So I come to you as a man's man.
Sure, and I come to you as a man's man.
So let's shake on that. Good, strong, firm handshake, James. Well done. So men.
Men.
Are men real today? Where's the real men of today? Where have they gone?
It's a fantastic question. There's a lot of evidence to suggest men are lost. There's a lot of areas in life and in society where men aren't stepping up to the plate in the way they should. I'm going to talk a little bit today about, I'm going to use, our third guest today is a guy called John Eldridge who wrote a book called Wild at Heart. Welcome, John. Welcome, John. He's an American guy, but he writes this. He asks that question about men in his book, and I run a small group with half a dozen guys in the group, and we talk about men. We talk about what are the desires of a man's heart? What is at the core of a man's being? Have men been taken out of the game in today's society? Why do so many men addicted to sports and every other thing? It's a fantastic issue you've raised. Can I give you a quote?
Absolutely.
Out of the book? John, I've got a few quotes highlighted here today. This book is just, I couldn't recommend it higher. There's literally a million quotes I could give you. I've picked a few out today, but here's what John says on men.
Let's hear John.
Society at large can't make up its mind about men. Having spent the last 30 years redefining masculinity into something more sensitive, safe, manageable and well feminine, it now berates men for not being men. Boys will be boys, they sigh. As though if a man were to truly grow up, he would forsake wilderness and wanderlust and settle down. Where are all the real men is regular fare for talk shows and new books. You ask them to be women, I wanted to say. How can a man know he is one when his highest aim is minding his manners? Minding his manners.
James, you mentioned that a group of men meet regularly to discuss the content in that book, which I do know that book well.
Yeah, sure.
And with you, I highly recommend it. Do men open up? Are they opening up? Are they sharing?
Surprisingly, I think at the core of a man's heart, they want to go there. I think they want to go there. I think we live in a society that's so afraid of what we might uncover if we just went into the heart a little bit, explored emotions, maybe even cried. I mean, God help us if we cry, you know.
What's the world coming to?
And I reckon at the core of a guy's heart, they want to go there because they're deep. I think men are deep, a lot deeper than we give them credit for. I think you just got to create a safe environment where it's okay to go there. And we get past the whole rubbish idea that it's not cool to explore deeper issues. Women do this fantastically. Women are great at this. Men suck at it. Can I say suck?
Absolutely.
I've said it anyway.
Yes,
so
it's true.
And I don't think men want to suck at it. I think they want to be better at it. And you get a few guys in a room that are all on the same page and want to go there. It's dynamite. It's great. And we've seen some fantastic life change just come from the chapters. I mean, the chapters of the book are well laid out. It goes through what are the desires of a man's heart. What are the kind of movies he likes? You know, look at, John says in the book, it was Braveheart written by women. Look at the types of movies men like. Does that give you an idea about what's at the core of a man's heart? Adventure, beauties to rescue, battles to fight. Movies are a good, just the whole chapter on movies. Movies give you a great example of what's at the core of a man.
So, exactly that. What is at the core of a man, James? Is it the adventure? What have you discovered in your group and with this book? Do they need to find that adventure for themselves, or do they need to have it given to them, or how does it work?
It's a great question. To quote John, John says, "I listen carefully to many, many men, and I'm convinced that these desires are universal. A clue into masculinity itself. They may be misplaced, forgotten or misdirected, but at the heart of every man is a desire for a battle to fight, an adventure to live, and a beauty to rescue."
A beauty to rescue.
A beauty to rescue, yeah.
So how does that fit with the woman's desires? Does the woman want the man who is after that adventure and she becomes part of that adventure? Or is there some sort of clash happening there?
It's a great question. I think a woman wants to be caught up in a good adventure. I think men need to lead the adventure, though. I think, unfortunately, probably one of the biggest problems men face in today's society is women are the adventure.
Yes.
If you get where I'm going with that.
Yeah, I do. Yep.
Men live to conquer women, and if they can attract women, and you think about just look at society, how men long for a woman's approval. And I think what men have really sacrificed their souls into and sacrificed their own adventure for is to chase the woman. They have made the woman the adventure rather than bringing the woman into the adventure. And what that does is, when a woman is the adventure for you, when you meet a woman, you come to her from a place of weakness because you need something from her. You need the woman to validate you. Whereas if you can sort out your manhood without the woman, when you do meet the woman, and we all want to,
absolutely,
you come with something to offer. You bring something. It's like showing up to dinner with a bottle of wine. Men who need the woman to validate them, it's like coming around for dinner and I've got nothing to give you. In fact, I'm going to take 4 bottles of wine out of your house and take them home with me.
What a letdown. Yeah. Wow.
So it's a common problem.
As a man, that's a great piece of knowledge to have.
But what do you do with that? Where do you go with that? It raises such deep questions. Like, I know for me, I was riding my bike through the bush when I was 10 years old, came across a whole stash of porn magazines. I'd never seen that stuff before. I think I was like 10. Looking at this stuff, and then today's worse.
Funny, I think I went along that same track on my bike at some stage too.
And I think this stuff just grows into something really unhealthy. And I think you got to go there and look at why, and I think most men will have to wrestle the porn issue, if we're talking about porn.
Yeah.
They're going to wrestle that at some point in their life. You got to stare that dragon down.
Look, it's so available. It's available to you without even trying, with the internet and so on and so forth.
And I know people think that's a bad thing, but what if that actually could be a good thing for men in a sense? I had an amazing experience once walking along Bridge Road, Richmond, maybe 10 years ago. And I was walking past a hairdresser's window, and I looked at one of those windows, where the woman's eyes follow you as you move on, and it's like, whoa, she's hot. And something inside of me just said, this is not even real. She doesn't know who you are. She wouldn't know you if she fell over you in the street.
Absolutely.
And I don't know what switch flicked that day. But
sorry, James. Sorry to do this too, but let's come back to the flicking of the switch after the break. We'll be back with Man, Woman, God very shortly. Welcome back. I'm with James Layton, and he's about to flick the switch. James, you were riding past a hairdresser's?
Yeah, walking past,
sorry, and you caught the attention of an attractive female?
Well, she caught my attention.
Oh, fair enough. Yep, go on.
And it just something in me just said, this is not real. She is not doing this for you. Yeah, she's this, we see it on posters, billboards, magazines all the time, this amazing looking girl. And there's something in the heart of a guy that is wired to beauty. John says in the book, the naked woman is almost too much for the male to behold. It was supposed to be attracted to women.
Yes.
But it's got unhealthy. And when I looked at this girl in the shop window, just this thing said, she's not there for you. She doesn't know you. She's in a studio. This is photography. It's not real. Why do you need this? And it sent me on a little bit of a journey. Why am I attracted to this? What is it in me that needs to be fed by this? What am I medicating? If I'm, it was 1995, I think, when a friend of mine rang me up and said, guess what I'm doing? I'm surfing the web. And I'm like, what's the web? I didn't know what the internet was. And as a guy, literally, when you first discover internet, one of the things you discover is the availability of porn.
Yeah.
And you do. I think every guy has to walk this journey. It's like part of maybe an initiation into manhood. Every man has to deal with sexuality and what that means to him. And I've had to do that. It's a long journey for a lot of guys. But I really feel like I've come out the other side of that, and I've really been able to answer the question, I need to find my validation from a source that's not women. It's almost, you need to walk away from women in a sense, and if you're a married man, obviously not, but walk away from the validation that a woman gives you. And it's beautiful in a God context if you have a relationship with God, because he's the author of manhood, he's the creator of manhood. And I had to ask God, what is it that makes me a man? What is, if it's not women that affirm my manhood, what does, you know? And that takes you on a whole new set of questions and journeys and pathways. Yeah.
Wow. That's fantastic, James. Fantastic. So, can you talk to me about the influence of the father on a man, or a man's father?
Yeah, sure.
And to continue on, the influence that man has on a child, particularly a son.
I believe, and I think John had backed this up in his book Wild at Heart, masculinity is bestowed, and it's bestowed by men, and it comes from the company of men. I don't think masculinity, true masculinity, and there's probably a lot of arguments about what is a real man. I mean, you talked before about the rugged man, and I know we look at rugged men like John Wayne and think, well,
the Marlborough man?
Yeah, the Marlborough man, there's a real man. He's tough, and is he? Or is he just a loner, totally disconnected and emotionally isolated? Like, is that a real man? How do we know that guy, the Marlborough man?
Well, quite often the likes of John Wayne and the Marlborough man would ride off into the sunset alone, on a horse.
Alone.
And
there's your key word, alone.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Is that manhood, or is it a real man connected, emotionally
Lone Ranger.
vulnerable? You know, maybe women struggle a bit because their men are emotionally disconnected. They'd rather sit at home and watch 24 hours of sport than they would rather engage in conversation with their wife. What's real manhood, what's not, you know, it's... I think the father has a lot to play. I think fathers bestow manhood, and I think if you look at statistics, it's fairly ugly. Fathering, I've read a lot of books on fatherlessness, and some of this material I'm reading would suggest that fatherlessness is probably one of the world's greatest pandemics. Yes. And its effect on society, the effect on statistics say kids that grow up without their father present are twice as likely to end up in ... everything, you know. Yeah. My own journey with my father, interesting. You know, my father was very successful. He was a great man, and yet in his mid-40s had some kind of a mental breakdown, stopped going to work, medicated that breakdown with alcohol, and within 15 years, he'd drunk himself to death. Now, in the middle of that, I'm growing up, and I copped a lot of that stuff. I copped a lot. I never.
Were you the only boy in your family, or
I've got a brother who's 18 years older than me and two sisters, but I was the youngest, and I was we were living with him at the time. Now, my dad was never physically abusive to me. And I know a lot of people grow up in physically abusive homes, and that's a whole new set of pain altogether. But my dad was incredibly verbally abusive. And, you know, John Eldridge says in his book, all men at some point in their life receive a wound that's well aimed, it goes to the core of your heart, it's to do with your identity and your manhood, and more often than not, that wound is delivered by your father. And, you know, I'm a father, I've got a son, I've got two daughters, but I've got a son as well. Do you think there's
a danger of overcompensating for your father in terms of how you're raising your boy?
Yeah, there is certainly a danger. I feel like I've learned a lot about being a father from what my dad modeled, probably what I don't want to do as a father. And I've probably, if you look at a pendulum, it always swings too far. Yeah. And you just find a healthy balance in the middle. But I'm a man, I'm a human, I'm broken myself. I can't be a perfect parent. I'm going to hurt my son whether I want to or not, to a degree, you know.
Unwillingly.
Unwillingly, yeah. And I think the healthiest thing with my son, he's 15 this year, is just opening up the conversation and giving him space to talk to me, and knowing that one of my major roles in his life is to affirm and bestow manhood on him. He needs to know he's a man, and it needs to come from me, and even what that looks like. And it's a journey we've got to go on together. I think one of the worst things I could probably do, or the most dangerous things, is abdicate and just not and say, well, you'll be right, you're a boy, you'll figure it out, you know, go get yourself a girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. I've got to engage, and I think maybe one of things men could do better is engage.
Absolutely.
In relationships with their own kids. it's easy to disengage. It's hard work engaging. It requires something of you. You can't just... It takes an effort. You can't be lazy. My dad disengaged. He just drank. That was his way of dealing with it. So I learned how to be a man from my friends. And the first window that opens up as a young guy is women. It's girls. Like by the time I was 15, I wasn't fat and chubby anymore. I actually looked half decent, and girls liked me. What do you do with that? I didn't have anyone else to help me.
Well, there's no, other than your direct father, what is there? There's no other avenue of education other than school, that's again a whole question on its own that needs to be dealt with, whether that's being done the right way. But look, James, again, we need to go to a break. But we'll come back with more. See you back soon at Man, Woman, God. Welcome back to Man, Woman, God. I'm with James Layton, our resident pastor, and we're talking about men. Real men, James. Real men. Where have they gone? Where are they up to? What are they doing? Well, they're meeting with you weekly.
Yes.
And what a great medium. I'm really touched by the fact you're doing that. It's a great avenue for men to share with men.
I've been trying to get a men's group together for a couple of years.
Can I just say, before you enter that, sorry to do this to you, but most churches that I know, there's always a women's group, or 2 or 3 or 4 or more. There's always a women's conference. Rarely do you come across a men's conference, or even less frequent is the fact that there's a men's group or gathering of any sort.
I really struggled with this in starting a church. We started a church 2 years ago. I wanted to get guys together, and so originally we thought, hey, let's just get together, do life together, we'll meet up, we won't have an agenda, we'll just connect, do relationships. I thought it was a fantastic idea, and it fell on its head. At the end of the day, for people to come out at one night a week without a point, and I hated that it had to be this way, but I remember sitting in the G-Bung Hotel one night by myself. No guys showed up.
No one turned up.
And I thought, you know what, I'm done with this. I can't get guys together. And it was literally only a couple of weeks later, I was talking to a new guy at our church. We were talking through the book Wild at Heart and just the impact that it has on men. And we both came up with the idea, what if we did a Wild at Heart group where we worked through a book together, a chapter a week. It's not a lot. It's like there's 15 pages in a chapter. It's not a big read. And we just go with the topics of the chapters, and we flick through the chapters and the order of the way they go. There's 12 chapters. They're in a great order. We thought, let's give that a go. We got 10 guys together. We said, if you don't show up on the first night, we're going to close the group because we want to create a safe place where you can be vulnerable. And we want to build trust in the group. And so we don't want different people coming and going every week. So we're going to close the group for 12 weeks. So we had 10 guys start, and I can't believe what I've seen happen in the group.
Fantastic.
It's proved to me that men want to go there. I'm about to start my second group in the southern suburbs. I've got 16 guys at the moment that I could probably put in. We'll end up with a second group of 10. I'll do as many groups as show up because there's something in this.
Are they attending because they've been invited, or are they hungry to do this?
They're hungry to do this. They want to go to the heart stuff. They want to look at the wound. I'm leading a group. You've got to be vulnerable. I've learned. I've got as much out of the group as well. Yeah, I lead the group. Yeah, I'm a pastor, but I take my pastor's hat off when I'm in the group. It's like, you know what? I'm one of the boys tonight, and here I'm going to tell you my story. Here's my wound. This is what might happen through my dad. Here's what my fears are. I lead with, and when you set the pace with vulnerability, you get vulnerability. So you get what you lead with. So, and it's just proven that guys want to go deeper in the service. They want to know what happened from the words their father said to them, or things that we've had guys open up about just the horrific environment in school, getting bullied, getting into fights and losing. What does that do? Shame, even talking about shame, things we don't want to talk about. There's a lot of things we don't want to talk about, but we do. And you just got to set the platform where, you know what, guys, I know, let's be honest, we don't want to talk about losing fights. We don't want to talk about areas where we've been exposed as weak. Weakness is a big one. we talk about the false self a lot, that false self you create that says, I'm big and strong and I've got tattoos, keep away from me, I'll hurt you before you hurt me. The facades, the posing. What if we get past that? What if we just go deeper? And people want to, for sure.
Fantastic. James, tell me, is there an answer to this question? What is every man's fear? Is there such a thing?
Yeah, there's absolutely such a thing. I think if I had to answer, I'd say exposure. It's an age-old fear. Adam and Eve disobeyed God and they suddenly realised they were naked. God comes in and says, where are you? And they were hiding. We were naked and ashamed. We hid because we were naked and ashamed. I think shame causes us to hide. I think, therefore, men's biggest fear is that you'll find out, if you really know who I am, you won't think I'm a man.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just going to show you what I want you to see. I'm going to be, I've got a false self. I know when I created it. We lived in Sydney. We left Sydney when I was 12. I reinvented myself because I got bullied around a bit. School wasn't great for me up till the age of 12. It was okay, but it wasn't great. Kids are nasty. Kids pick on your faults. They see your weaknesses. I reinvented myself. So from that time on, people only really saw what I wanted them to see. You just play. You can be tough. You can be funny. You can be the clown. You can be whatever you want to be. But one of my biggest breakthroughs, especially a place where God led me, was it started with a question from my wife. She said, why doesn't James accept James? And I'm like, I do accept me. I know my past. I know God's forgiven me. I know that. I do accept me. And I felt God say, no. The James you don't accept is 12-year-old James, the one you left behind when you reinvented yourself. And this James, the real James, is gentle, he's kind, he's emotional, he's affectionate, he's soft, he's merciful. He doesn't want to hurt anyone. That's the real James. And you're afraid of him because you think he's weak. You think because your dad hated weakness and he called you a coward and he picked on you for being weak, you thought, I can't show anyone that I'm soft and kind. And one of the biggest revelations for me was I thought my strengths were my weaknesses when in fact they were my strengths.
Is it the way around?
It was the other way around.
What a great self-analysis. That must have been a great leap forward for you.
It was huge. It was like the lights are going on.
Yeah.
You've just walked into my house and you turn the lights on.
Is this the sort of discovery that these men in the group are heading towards?
Yep.
Wow.
And more. I love it. It's awesome what comes out. Because we don't know what we don't know. I think we're used to living in the dark.
Well, that's it. We don't know what we don't know, of course. Wow. James, we could have another 3 episodes
based
around this. We should do it. We'll revisit this topic. It's just so wonderful. I just thank you very much for bringing this to us today, spending the time with the book and everything. And I just wish you all the best with the men's group.
Yep.
And I'd love to find out more about it and become part of it myself.
Cool.
Wow.
Great.
Thanks for watching Man, Woman, God. We'll see you next time.